week, and we have 9 petabytes of data in our Wayback Engine of time.
Sorry.
Oh, we in business?
We're in business.
Fabulous, thank you. Alrighty. Okay.
Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm Michael from Barrier Networks. Jordan Schroeder, my CISO, our CISO, was meant to be here, but he got COVID. So as a last minute stand-in, we've got our partners, Immersive Labs. So I'm here to introduce Kate and Tom from Immersive Labs. It's a company that was founded a few years ago in 2017 by an ex-GCHQ colleague. They specialise in exercising and evidencing the cyber resilience in your workforce. And I'm going to pass over to Kate, who will do another bit of the intro, and we'll begin it.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining today. Michael, thank you for the introduction. As Michael explained, we're actually a partner of Barrier Networks, and we have stepped in last minute. So for those of you who were expecting to see Jordan, my apologies, it's not quite Jordan, but hopefully, yeah, and Tom. So basically, excuse it, we've very much last minute sort of stepped in and planned this or put this together, so we're not quite as polished as we would like to be. I guess I want to start really not sort of preaching to all of you who are obviously very much embedded in cybersecurity, but we all know that the cybersecurity threat is still very, very prevalent, and it's not going away. It's changing with incredible speed, and it makes it impossible for organizations to keep up to date. Immersive Labs have developed a platform that provides you with the ability to exercise, evidence, and equip your workforce. So what does that mean in reality? That's all well and good, talking and having a marketing line, like. But it provides, for example, your developers with the ability to produce and fix secure code. For example, OWASP top 10. It provides your security teams with access to the latest threats. You know, we're all still very much aware of the Log4j and the FireEye and SolarWinds. We have an ability to spin up those labs within sort of 24, 48 hours. We actually had labs for the Log4j spun up within 8 hours for our customers to actually access. The final sort of level is as well as around your executive team. The decision making, you know, if you are hit by a ransomware, do you feel confident that your executive team will make the right decision? Do they know how to act? Would they pay the ransomware? Would you pay the ransomware? We've decided we're not going to stand here and do sort of a death by PowerPoint, but actually what we thought the best way to do is actually show you the product and get you all involved, so you can actually see how interactive it is. It's gamified, and please feel free, we want you to be very much involved, ask questions, and I'm going to lead you now with Tom, who will go through the product.
Oh, this one should be working. So thank you everyone. No marketing spiel here. We're going to just go into the platform, and it's actually going to be interactive. So we're going to go through the 3 aspects that we talked around, in particular with Log4j. So we'll go through part of the platform that is important for cybersecurity professionals. We will touch on a little bit about the kind of secure coding and the way that we help remediate those kind of vulnerabilities. And then finally, the interactive part, which will make up the bulk of the presentation, we'll go through a crisis scenario tied in with Log4j, where you will all be part of the crisis management team, and we'll go through a kind of write your own storyline exploding crisis, where you will be able to vote and make decisions on how we go through it. So that's the thing to look forward to. That'll come up later. So the Immersive Labs philosophy is all hands-on interactive engagement. So there's going to be no click-through exercise, there is going to be no kind of death by PowerPoint, and this is first kind of exemplified by our CyberPro product. So When Log4j came out, it's a kind of tie-in between three key areas of an organization. That's the exec board members, who are obviously the most at risk. They need to determine how they're going to address the vulnerability from like a high-level strategic view. But we have the cybersecurity teams as well. So what we have on the platform is a lab environment that we made within about 48 hours. I think 8 hours actually for Log4j. And this is like from the defensive viewpoint. So what you have is a virtual machine that's spun up with the vulnerability, and then this is from a kind of defensive point of view, where you have to go in, all of the information and details is within the lab environment. So if you're a SOC team member, we also have an offensive version of the lab for kind of red team members. You'd go in and get hands-on with the vulnerability so you know what it looks like and identify instances of compromise from a hands-on point of view within your organization. I'm not technical, so I can't show you this, and that's the entire idea of the platform, is to evidence those skills. So we're not going to go through that. We're also not going to go through the secure coding aspect of Log4j. So when it came out, obviously the developers need to be able to remediate the vulnerability within their code base. What we do at Immersive Labs is spin up a vulnerable application, and then give the developers the access to the code, which I can go in here, delete and edit, and then you test your code. And in the top right, you can see that the application is working, but it's still vulnerable. It's not secure. So developers would have to come in here, remediate the vulnerability, make sure the app still works. They can't just nuke the code base. And then from there, they can prove and evidence those skills back that they've understood how to remediate the Log4j vulnerability. Again, I'm not technical, so I can't show you that. That's the entire idea of the platform. You're evidencing those hands-on skills back. What I can go through is a simulated cyber crisis with you. So Log4j comes out. You are going to be part of the executive crisis management team of Megatech Corp. So I can ask all of you, please can you get your phones or laptops out. At the top here, it says play.immersivelabs.online. Type that into your HTML browser. And then from there, you can type in this code, and you'll be able to join in this crisis scenario. This is our crisis sim tool. This is almost like a virtual tabletopping exercise. And what it allows teams to do is either have a presented version of a cyber crisis, or we can run it asynchronously. So this came from the need, especially during COVID, where typically tabletop scenarios would be organized like a day where you get the exec senior management team in, and then they would need to go through a tabletop. You couldn't do that during COVID. It needed to be run asynchronously. We can do that through our kind of hands-on platform. So please go to play.immersivelabs.online and then enter this code to join. And then from there, we will start kicking off. So as you're doing that, I'll give you a bit of an overview. So this is around Log4j. 9th December 21, a serious vulnerability in Apache Log4j logging package was publicly disclosed. About a third of all web-based services use Java, so a huge vulnerability, one of the most high-impact CVEs that we've seen so far. You are going to be part of the exec crisis management team for Megatech Corp, and as this vulnerability hits, you're going to be making decisions on how we progress from here. So I'll go from next. This is going to be the first inject. There are going to be a total of 10. We're not going to go through every single one. That may take too much time. But from here, we're going to be able to independently vote and assess the options available in this evolving crisis. So the 0 day, Megatech Corp is a standby following a warning from the Global Security Center, your SOC team, about this 0 day. So going down here, the patching the estate could take days to weeks and require downtime. If your gaming servers are vulnerable, this could prove a heavy commercial blow in the run up to Christmas. What will you instruct your cyber teams to do? So you can input your own kind of media in here. This is tailor-made for Log4j. But if you have your own organizations, you can fill in your own email addresses or whatever from there. So let's go to reveal options and go to the vote now. So you should have your options come up on your device. A bit of information around the 0 day is here. And then what you have is the options available to you that you will vote to play along. Obviously, in a traditional tabletop sense, this would be a chance to discuss with colleagues, share ideas, open up the conversation. One of the key elements that we found with this kind of tooling is that sometimes the loudest voice in the room would be the way that you'd go and the decision that you'd make. not necessarily the person that is best qualified to be making that kind of decision. So a kind of an idea that we had when making this kind of tooling is we want to make sure that every voice is heard. Sometimes the technical voice that may have the best kind of expertise to make this decision may not be the one that's being heard in the room. So we're opening that up. So I'm going to give you 5 more seconds to put through your option, and then we're going to reveal all the responses. So 3, 2, 1, anyone nod in. We're going to reveal the responses from there. So out of our 23 participants, we managed to get 16 in before the downtime. So let's see how this is split out. Option 1, it got 50% of the votes. Patch vulnerable game servers during periods of lowest activity. No one has chosen option 2, which is delay patching until January. And then option 3, 50% of the votes. Patch vulnerable game server as soon as possible. I'm the decision maker, so we're going with 3. Show impact. Great answer. Congratulations, everyone. Well done, good job. Patch vulnerable game server as soon as possible. So what you see on the right-hand side here, customer complaints, there are vulnerabilities, we're patching it, that's going to go up. You can change that to customer confidence or share price, whatever you fancy. Stock price, going back up, that's good news considering we're actively addressing the issue. Company reputation gone down slightly, but this is kind of the great answer. So this is what we'd do to not only show what the answer is, encourage you to get the good answers, but also assess confidence. So within an organization, what we want to be doing is bringing out those necessarily quieter voices and building up the confidence so what they have is the muscle memory to jump into action when the vulnerability comes live. When they're in this high pressure decision-making scenario, we want you to not only have the right answers, but also have a high level of confidence to come forward and make that decision. Obviously, the opposite would be if you've had an incorrect answer with a high degree of confidence, then we politely suggest you go away and look at your incident response plan or, build out to your understanding and your confidence to meet that. So,
I was going to add in as well, I think one of the cool things about this is the ability whilst you're doing these, companies will engage and interact and have conversations, and if they haven't actually put a crisis sort of process in place at the time, it's something that then they start to bring those ideas together and actually pull one.
The idea about building this kind of muscle memory is something that we're trying to really get into this workforce kind of upskilling and maturing in cybersecurity. Quite often in crisis scenarios, they're dusty old tomes. Fires don't evolve, floods don't evolve, whereas cyber does. So it's not a case you can do your one CPR course in a year and then I'm gonna pass out at the front and everyone that is CPR trained is all going to jump up and come and help me. You haven't had that muscle memory to build in and build that confidence in what to do in a scenario, and cyber's like that. We want to make sure that you're continually upskilling, continually building that confidence, so if something does evolve and change, you can meet that threat head on. One of the best kind of run-throughs I've had this with a customer is their incident response plan was a bit of a dusty tome, and during COVID, they'd got it out to run through one of the scenarios, and the scenario was that their entire infrastructure and IT network had gone down, so they couldn't communicate with each other. And the first thing they did was go, open the tome, page 1, get the long-range radios that we use to communicate and distribute those out amongst the senior management team. They're all at home, so they'd have to have driven thousands of miles to be able to get the radios that they're going to try and use. So it's not just that your incident response plan is there, that's like a map. What we want you to do is walk the terrain, actually go through your incident response plan, identify any of the issues there that you don't get just through a single pass. Anyway, on to Inject 2. Suspicious activity. The rush to patch the Megatech estate is underway. Global IT resources from non-Apache issues are starting to dwindle. Meanwhile, the SOC has observed some suspicious activity on AWS. SOC suspects that not every machine running Java has been patched effectively. You've got an email chain to kind of fill out the media there. Let's open up the voting. So this is Inject 2 around suspicious activity. Let's see how many options we've got here. We've only got 2, so I'm only going to give you 15 seconds. From now, let's say. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's see your responses. So, slightly split. Option 1, investigating the suspicious AWS activity or patching potentially vulnerable machines in the AWS environment. I will go with my experts in the field and choose option 2. Show the impact here. Oh, okay answer. That may be the case. You know, I can't remember, John Picard or Star Trek, Trekkie fans out there, sometimes you do everything right and, you know, even then you don't win. So it may be that you're in a losing scenario here. And what you need to do is fight the fires as best as you can. Your stock price is still going down, but what you want to be doing is building out that resilience and muscle memory so that no matter what, you know what your plan is, how are you going to stick to it, and even in these horrible questions of, you know, the train scenario where you've got to direct the train onto either track, you know which one your company is going to do because it best suits your incident response plan. So we've got an okay answer, patching the vulnerability, vulnerable machines in the AWS environment. This would be the feedback that you would learn from there. Next, inject. So, bye-bye binaries, have a read through here. So the SOC was investigating the AWS event logs, something was of concern. SOC team suggests that at least one AWS user key has been compromised. This implies that the secret part of the key was incorrectly stored, probably on an AWS machine. How should the SOC mitigate the current risk? Right, we'll go through to here, reveal options. Vote now. Have a read through, 3 options to choose from.
Excuse me, could you scroll down to see the incidents?
Oh, I absolutely can, sorry. Perfect. So we've got 3 options available. We'll run through them for the people streaming in. Delete the user account which the key is attached. Option 2, move the stolen binaries to a secure bucket. Option 3, mandate MFA for Megatech AWS users. We shall reveal the options in 3, 2, 1. So with 19 responses, let's have a look through. Option 1, 32% of responses of delete the user account which the key is attached. Option 2, move the stolen binaries to a secure bucket. Option 3, mandate MFA for Megatech AWS users. So this is where you could go off-piste. Maybe I'll intentionally choose the one that's got the least amount of options chosen. But this would give the kind of conversation that you'd look to build, of discussion amongst your own teams in a presented view like this, or over Teams if you can do it asynchronously or split apart. So I'm going to go with option 3, just to see what will happen. It's an OK answer. I imagine that you guys had crowdsourced the better answer as a result. It's now to past, so there are 10 injects as this kind of story develops over time. If anyone has seen Bandersnatch, which is the Netflix kind of create your own storyline, or read those books when you were younger, that's the kind of thing that this platform will provide. It takes you down the storyline that you have kind of submitted yourself. So you can go through the same exercise multiple times, improve upon it, and get different answers depending on the actions that you choose. It's not just going to be a yes, no, oh, you've chosen the wrong answer, let's go to the next scenario with the correct answer. No. If you've paid the ransom too early, they've smelt a cash cow and they think they can get more money out of you, and they go, okay, thank you for 2 million, we're going to ask for another 4 million, please. You're then going to have to deal with that scenario.
I think the other important thing to state is as well is whilst you are given only one choice, often within a situation you're going to be having a discussion, and actually it might be a case of that you do 2 out of those. But in this situation, we're just forcing you to make that one decision to start off with.
Perfect. The philosophy of what we're doing in Immersive Labs around the kind of cyber workforce optimization and building the maturity and resilience of organizations isn't just the kind of exercising part. I think latest FCA regulation coming in is going to mandate that organizations that are FCA regulated need to be able to prove and evidence their kind of maturity and response to a cyber crisis. This is only going to get kind of more widespread. Auditors and insurers are going to be asking how you can prove and evidence your kind of cyber resiliency. So not just are we going to be running these exercises, we want the learning to come out of it and the evidencing around it. So for the kind of individual lab environments, for SOC team members, that can get reported back to like a manager so they can assess skills gaps, close that, build out that kind of maturity within their own team. Developers, the same way, it can report back if they can securely and remediate their code with the vulnerabilities chosen. And then with the kind of exercising around a board or exec or crisis team, then we do that as well. So we can look into kind of the overview of the entire organization, how they've responded, their answers. This is one that I've pre-made because we didn't finish the last one. You can look at individual responses. So quite often this comes up if someone's chosen a weak answer but they're very confident why. We need to go around and talk about that. We need to change the incident response plan we have, or assess who is kind of making those decisions and build out the learning from this scenario. And then if you want to go back and run it again, you can do that as well, kind of build upon the learning. And what we'll do is we'll evidence all of that back. So if you need an exec team board who aren't particularly technical, cyber's often coming up with those meetings. What they don't want is just technical jargon thrown at them. What they want is a way of identifying and evidencing back how mature their organization is, where their vulnerabilities lie, and then also what you're doing to fix them. It's not just a case of, okay, we're really secure, we've got the best team in the world. Sometimes you want to identify those skill gaps, right? You want to identify areas to work on and improve, whether it's your incident response plan and responding to crises, whether it's how quickly your security team can jump into action with a vulnerability. Maybe it's the developers and security teams actually talking to each other for once. Quite often, an analogy was spoken earlier of the similarity between sales and finance, which I'm in sales and finance, where I'm throwing out as much stuff as possible and finance having to clean out stuff afterwards. That's the same with developers meeting those deadlines, that time crunch, putting out code as quickly as they can, and the security team having to clean up afterwards. At the moment, there's maybe a bit of a disparity there, and not necessarily the communication needed to have secure code and then the security team to follow up afterwards. They're not just sweeping up the debris that's been left there. So evidencing all of that back into kind of concise way to deploy to a board and learn as an organization and kind of build that maturity is where we think the kind of industry is going. It's where legislation is going to come in, and it's what we're doing as an organization. So I think we've just about come to the end from there. Kate, anything from you to build on that? If not, we can open up to the questions, because asking around how you guys have experienced this and anything around the products that we have is probably the best way to go from here, I think.
I think the only thing I would add in is with the crisis sim as well, there are two options. So we've obviously gone through a pre-built scenario, but there is also an option as well. So we've actually sold to oil rigs in the past as well, where they're actually having to put in place something, whereas if there is a fire, does everybody know what the process is? Do they know how to respond? What's the first immediate action? So it can be custom built as well. So I think that's an important thing to take on board as well, that you can actually customize it for your own company and your own requirements as well. So yes, obviously at the moment we're focused very much around the cybersecurity side of things, but it can be a wider audience as well.
Perfect. We are here with Barrier. So we are upstairs on the Barrier booth. If you're not comfortable asking any questions in front of all of us, then feel free to come and join us later on. Come and ask anything. My name's Tom, this is Kate. Happy to answer anything that you may have. If anyone's got any questions now, we can pass the microphone around so the people on stream can hear. If anything that might be useful for everyone to hear, more than happy to answer that. Any questions? Michael, any questions?
Well, that was great. Thank you very much.
I need to stress this was very last minute, so apologies for not being Jordan and running you through. As you've told, I'm not even a crisis management team member, so rushing through a simulated cyber crisis isn't my forte either. So thank you for joining in and giving your wisdom, because I would not have managed by myself. Yes?
Thank you. Really interesting. Can you register for free and have a look at some of the other simulations that are there?
So you can't currently register for free to access the simulations that we run. Two reasons for that. First is that we do a lot of tailor-made stuff, so for organizations, so it'll be their incident response plans built into our cyber crises that we can't share. Secondly, as a kind of all of the like freely available stuff that we would want to put out around Log4j that is applicable for everyone, the way that these are facilitated and run massively depends on how good the person doing it is, or tailored towards the needs of an organization. So our kind of crisis response isn't freely available, but you can access our kind of Cyber Pro labs as a security team member to go through. We're more than happy to kind of demo it or show it to you. So if you're interested in that, absolutely, but you can't run through the kind of tabletop scenarios for free on our website.
Anybody else?
Perfect. If not, we'll see you at the barrier booth then. Let you off to lunch early. Thanks all. Oh. I think that was about 2 out of 10 fun. How do you think, Gabrielle? Good, bad, indifferent?
I'm still sort of new to coming to these events. Sort of.
Yeah.
So I've only, every 2 years if you exclude COVID.
Okay.
But I did find that really interesting. Sort of it's nice seeing things and
Yeah.
sometimes when I.
Well, obviously, I think this is my third event, so
Yeah.
I've never done a talk before, and I don't also know what to expect, but I imagine you've probably had a lot of presentations and a showcasing a lot of stuff, so the fact that we can be a bit interactive is the crutch that I could lean on.
It's nice to have the interaction, and
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so it's actually something like this is very useful to actually see and sort of see whether I was getting the right answers or
Yeah.
what my answers were, because I'm not yet in the environment
Of
where
course.
I can only sort of guess what people are doing when we have an
Yeah.
incident, but not actually.
Feed it all back.
Did you answer in the majority, Gabrielle?
About 50-50. Some of them I
Alright.
got, some of them.
It was very quick, wasn't it? It was very...
It really was.
I think the last one I was in that very small.
Okay.
Only because I thought, this is what my work has done to me. Last week they implemented two-factor authentication on Teams. So I got a call this morning, even though I'm on holiday.